If it could be पसंद है
Hi everybody, you're listening to the Khandan podcast by the You Podcast team, a bi-weekly podcast revisiting the movies of Amir Khan, Salman Khan and Shah Rukh Khan.
Every show we pick a random year from 3 decades of collectively 300 films the Khans have done and let our listeners vote which movie we should talk about. So it's entirely up to you.
Pick a team, make a vote, take us down nostalgia lane, punish us, or make us reassess a movie we dismissed.
We love the Khans, most of us, sometimes. And we would love for you all to be part of our Khandan, because when it comes to the Khans in Bollywood, nothing else really matters.
So welcome to a new episode of Khandan. This is when this posts, I think we're going to be on like a break hiatus at the moment. So this is like we're like time traveling in terms of podcasting. But we thought we'd get you some content, and we thought we would get you the biggest movie ever, and which is Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, because we're taking it slow, so we need to deliver something big. And we have the perfect guest for this episode, which is our friend Ruchi. Hi Ruchi.
Hello.
So you tweet at Ruchi@18, right? That's your Twitter handle?
Ruchi18.
Ruchi18, perfect. And Amrita and Sujoy, welcome.
Hello.
Hello.
So we're doing it. We're going to be adding a few things here, doing a few reviews and adding a few things that we want to talk about. But it's all going to be out of sync. But I hope people enjoy it. And Amrita, you also you braved another session of Curious Cat this week for us, right?
Yes, so we have all the lovely people that wrote in and sent in their questions regarding Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, and also little comments this is a big part of people's nostalgia. So a lot of people wrote in talking about what place this movie has in their life and in their memories, which was really super cute to read.
Right. And also we might randomly do some Lata intervals in the show, right? I think we all agreed on it. Suddenly we'll just go, yeah, that's just going to be part of the show. Okay, so, but let's do some current reviews, because although it is weird, right? Because we're going to post this later, but Sujoy, you saw Son Chadiya.
Yes.
Let's talk about it now, because otherwise we're never going to talk about it.
Yeah, I think we already sort of discussed how this is not going to be seen by many people, but it will obviously pick up steam, and everybody will be talking of it over the next couple of years, because this is a labor of love, and it's very, very visible of how much hard work and toil and physically demanding schedule that the actors have gone through to make this movie, and the makers of this movie have gone through, braving the weather and all those conditions. But also the story itself is very, very beautiful, and it's we have seen dacoit movies in the past. It's been a part of Bollywood pop culture in the 70s and 80s with Vinod Khanna and Sunil Dutt movies. And this is not exactly in that genre, but more of post-Bandit Queen, of how the aesthetic of this movie is. And the story is kind of reminds me of In Bruges, with all these bad dacoits who have really their moral compass is it's on a totally different scale, you would think, and they are all ridden with all these guilt, but also have some sort of a value system, and they are pursuing some sort of a goal to gain some sort of a mental freedom. It all comes together in the end very beautifully, and all the actors, all the performances are great, especially Ranbir Shori, who is a revelation in this movie.
Is it based on something that happened in real life? Because to me it seemed, you're saying Bandit Queen looked very like Pan Singh Tomar to me.
No, it's very much like Bandit Queen. A little bit of minor spoiler. It also has a crossover with a fictionalized version of So Manoj Bajpayee plays Daku Man Singh, and a fictional version of Phulan Devi also appears in this movie. So it's like a Marvel Universe crossover happening in this movie. So all the dacoits of Chambal.
So this is actually set in a much more recent era than I expected it to be, if it's Phulan Devi and Man Singh.
So this is set in emergency era. So they already have a slightly sneaky version of telling you what era it is set in by showing. So a radio broadcast is playing in the background where Indira Gandhi is declaring emergency. So it's 1975-ish. Yeah.
Interesting. I knew that it was going to be like how political is the film? Because from the bits I've seen, it seems pretty political.
It's not exactly so. 1975's emergency politics does not play a role in this. This is very isolated in that area itself. So the class politics is there of how the Brahmins and the Thakurs versus the Shudras, etc. That exists in this universe, but nothing of the national level of how Congress or BJP is acting in this particular time period. Nothing of that appears. It's all very isolated within that time frame or within that territory.
So you would recommend people watch it?
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
Like it certainly reminded me of In Bruges. It does not have that black humor of In Bruges, but it does carry the emotional heft of that movie of a criminal, but who is also carrying this guilt of something they did and how they want to be free of that guilt and what that leads to.
And how is Sushant Singh Rajput in his role?
Shushu.
He is very good. I think he is like very adept, and he expertly handles what is given to him, and he also is not overshadowed by the surrounding talent in this movie, which is a big achievement in itself. Because there's Ashutosh Rana, there's Ranveer Shori, who brilliant in this movie. He is the only one who I can say is really outstanding in this movie. And then there's Manoj Bajpayee, who is in a bit of a cameo, but he gets to do quite a lot of really fantastic scenes. And then Bhumi Pednekar, who is also very, very good.
Now, I was just asking, what's the music like? Because it's Vishal Bharadwaj, and I kind of like him, but I haven't heard the music yet.
Yeah, the music is kind of non-existent, other than there is one title track that plays during the interval time-ish, which is a very slow track, the title track sung by Rekha Bharadwaj. But other than that, it's pretty non-existent.
So there's this thing, right? Like, so this is like the paradox or the double-edged sword of making a movie like Sonchuriya, which it came out and everybody, like Anurag Kashyap loves this movie, like loves it. Like he was all over my timeline, just like retweeting it, talking about it, telling people to watch it. Now, as some of the people who used to follow film, like not Twitter, but like film writing from like 15 years ago. Yeah, Passion for Cinema.
Yeah.
Yes.
Which used to be this website where like all the super like nerdy idealist, incredibly earnest film lovers used to like hang out back in the day. And you'll remember there was like a certain like idea of like purity that people that went to sites like that had, and it sort of carried over into Twitter. Like Passion for Cinema doesn't exist anymore, but that crowd still exists on Twitter, and they follow Anurag Kashyap and a few other people, and you'll see them in their comments. And somebody like called out Ranveer Shori and said, like I can't, like he was asked, like I think he asked people to go see the movie or something. And
what he did was all the praising tweets of the movie that were mentioning him or the movie, he would retweet them, right? And this guy was like, let your art speak for itself. Don't become a Twitter celebrity and promote by retweeting posts about your movie. Let your art speak for itself and all that. And he was like, I've been doing that and I did not get any work. I've been waiting at home. But thank you for liking the movie.
Like, which was like a very classy way of saying like, hey, I gotta eat too. Yeah. Which, you know what? Don't be that person. Like, don't be like that person who's like, tries to find somebody else and like tells them that they ought to starve for like their art. Like, if you want to starve for your art, you do it. Like, don't tell another
Yeah,
person to start their art.
Yeah, I had a good laugh with that one. Yeah, because I'm like the opposite. I'm like a total sellout. Like, sell out whatever, get rich as quick as you can. It's the only way out of misery in life.
Asim is more Dharma than Phantom.
I totally, I'm more Kejo than Anurag. I always will be, man. I want to wear
get
those
your-
see-through nipple shirt hoodies.
Like, wipe your tears of, like, sadness at being a sellout with, like, all the dollar bills that you
yeah.
got.
There's a wonderful gif of what's his name, Woody Harrelson in Zombieland,
Yeah.
where he wipes his tears with the dollars.
Exactly.
Yeah, basically be that gif.
Yeah. Ruchi, you also... Oh, sorry, Amrita, you were saying?
No, I was telling Ruchi to, like, talk about Luka Chupi.
Yeah, that's what I was going to do. Ruchi, you saw Luka Chupi too, right?
Yeah, so I mean, it's not necessarily a film I would watch at the cinema, but we went with family, and it was every mum, dad.
So this is the movie with Kriti Sanan and Artik Karyan.
Yes, it is. He is okay. Kriti is lovely, but Pankaj Tripathi is phenomenal. And literally, he's the kind of person that I would watch a film for. So it's one of those movies that you watch with your family, but we ended up laughing a lot. The living in bit obviously has been trivialized to a huge extent. There's no politics of what it means for a couple. I mean, nothing. It's very glamorized and it's very all of that. But all in all, good laughs. And yes, you don't have to think about it. It's something that you can just watch with everybody and have fun.
I think it's doing better than expected, right? I saw some like box office pundit like tweeting that it did quite okay in terms of money it brought in.
Yeah, and I mean, why not at the moment? I don't think there's Gully Boy, which is, it's Gully Boy, but like this is kind of following that, where everybody wants a good film, so they're kind of ready to like something.
Yeah.
Anyway. So,
Did you watch Gully Boy, by the way?
Of course.
Did you like it?
I think it was, I didn't want to talk about it for a long time because I loved it so much. It literally put me in depression with my life. And what am I doing? Where am I headed? I don't have a passion. I don't have anything to work towards. That sort of the questions it raised on a personal level, but it was just phenomenal, which is kind of like, you think that Zoya has done that, and then I don't know if you want to talk about what she's doing on Prime at the moment.
Yeah, I think this is a good segue for it.
Yeah. Gully Boy was brilliant, and I think I need to watch it again when I'm alone. So.
Yeah, I want to watch it again too, actually. I want to watch it again.
I think it's out on Prime.
Already?
I think there's a concert of Gully Boy, but not the film.
Oh, it's a concert.
Or
Okay.
something to that effect.
What about the music for Luka Chupi? Because a lot of people were really mad at all the remixes.
So the Poster Chapada song is literally at the end credits, not even important. And the other songs are pleasant, but I don't remember any of them. So kind of tells you what it is about the music. But there are songs.
There are songs.
I mean, it's not like Son Chidiya where, it's not there. I mean, they're dancing and everything, but I don't remember a single song. I'm still listening to Gully Boy, so that kind of explains it.
Yeah.
I like Kriti Sanan. Like, I wish her well.
Yeah, me too. I like her too. Yeah. She's like I feel she's like a discount Deepika. If you can't get Deepika, you should just get Kriti Sanan.
She's really sprightly. She's tall. She's quite pretty, and she kind of blends it effortlessly with the city girls and the non-city girl roles, which is quite nice. So, like in Luka Chupi, like she's obviously quite glamorous because she studied in Delhi and she's come back to the small town. Whereas Karthik's family is quite. It's actually, you know what? The film is brilliant because of all these other characters. The lead couple are fine, but it's literally Vinay Pathak. He's like this politician. He's her father, and he's kind of like the politician who's he doesn't let couples hold hands, couple living in, da da da. They're very go back to your old culture sort of person, and he's hilarious. So his wife has a ghungat down to her neck throughout the film. And at the end, when things change, like you see her ghungat has come up to her forehead, which is kind of how far he's come. So it's these little things which are quite funny. And obviously, like Karthik's family is brilliant.
Nice. But like, I don't, because I don't live there or anything. Is this still an issue? So Joe, you said that there is still an issue, like live-in relationships for like small towns, right, or something?
I mean, from the town I come from, it would be a big major
Scandal?
deal when everybody, it will be a scandal where everybody knows everyone. So you would definitely know who are, living in and who, do you know uska beta, uski beti ke saath bhag gaya and all of that. That makes the talk of the town, etc. So I would think so. It still is a big deal in places like Mathura where this movie is set.
I think also cultures and communities. So like even I've lived in Bombay all my life, but it would be as bad because of the family that I come from. It would be completely frowned upon. I think even if I was living with a flatmate, so just my husband, when we had just met, he had a girl who was a flatmate. So my family was a bit spooked with that. They're like, oh, okay, he's living with a girl, which, you and I wouldn't think twice about it. But yeah, they would.
So let's move on to Made in Heaven, no?
Yeah.
So it's out on Prime, directed. It's conceived by. It's produced by Excel. I think Rima Kakti and Zoya Akhtar wrote most of it.
And Alankrita Srivastav.
Okay. And we might get to interview some of these people this week. We're trying to organize something. Let's see. And it's what is it? 9 parts or 8 parts? Something like that, right?
9.
Yeah.
9.
And I think we need to, like, the thing is with this Prime thing, like, I was just speaking with my sister and she doesn't have Prime. So she doesn't even know these shows come out. So I think we might need to maybe, give a bit more of a context of what's going on in this show. So, I'm just reading from the IMDb summary. It is a story of 2 wedding planners in Delhi, where tradition jostles with modern aspirations against the backdrop of big fat Indian weddings revealing many secrets and lies. It stars, I'm gonna kill these names, Arjun Mathur and
Sobita Dulipala.
Yeah, that one.
Yeah.
And Kalki Kekla. I'm saying that because I learned how to pronounce her name. That one I learned. So guys, we got sent the screeners early, but we were all too lazy to actually watch them. So we
I don't think we're supposed to say that.
We watched the screeners. Yeah,
we watched the screeners. No. But Sujoy, you watched all of the show, all of the series.
Yeah.
Me, Amrita, and Ruchi, we saw the first few episodes, right?
Yes.
So
The
we're not
first
going to get
episode.
into spoilers that much. But Amrita, what did you think of it?
Dan Baja Barat, obviously, but also, I don't know if Ruchi and Sujoy remember this, but about 10, maybe 12 years ago, there was this time when YRF tried to make it into television. And they were basically stepping into Ekta Mata territory. But they wanted to do something classy and a little bit different. Basically, what they were doing at that time is making streaming shows, but trying to put it on TV because there was no streaming service back then. So one of them was, I can't remember their names, like the shows, but they were all limited series.
I
shows.
remember. There was like one was like a crime thriller with like
Yeah, there
drug
was, like-
busting. It was called
Exactly.
Powder or something, and Mahi Way and Bang Bazaar.
Mahi, yes.
Mahi Way, I remember, yes.
Yeah. So there was a wedding show in that as well. And it wasn't very good, but it was meant to be like, and I don't remember, I think I saw maybe like 2 or 3 episodes and then I was just like, nope. Mahi Way, I remember because I saw the entire run of it and I thought it was really cute. But basically when I read the premise of this show, that's what came to mind. So I was like, obviously Excel and YRF make entirely different content, but for some reason, like I associate this whole wedding planner in Delhi, especially thing with YRF so strongly. That's what I expected when I went into this show. And obviously, like this show is a whole 180 degrees from that. Like it is extremely different. The vibe is different. The characters are different. They say and think and behave in ways that I don't think we're going to see in a YRF movie for a very long time if Aditya Chopra has anything to say about it.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it. Like I wanted to watch the next episode. The only reason I only saw one is because I ran out of time because I needed to do other things. But I fully
like watch K3G for 3.5 hours.
Yes. I had that hanging over my head. So, and you can't do K3G in one shot and then come out sane. So I had to like ration it into like blocks. So I had to go watch it. But I fully intend to like finish the series, I think. But I will say one thing, like Jim Sarb needs to like diversify his acting portfolio a little bit, because the moment I saw him, I was like, oh, he's gonna like cheat on her, like something, right? like the moment Jim Sarb showed up, I was like, it's gonna be something shady. Yeah,
I kind of got the feeling that she would cheat on him.
But see, that's the beauty of the series. Everybody's human in this movie, in this series. Like nobody is Doodh Ka Dhula Hua. It's all damaged goods. Everybody is damaged in this movie, in this series, which is kind of beautiful in a way.
So you've seen most of it. Did you like it?
I really liked it. Yeah. I quite enjoyed it, and the format is also like some of them like they have a like the entire story arc circles around these pivotal characters played by Jim Sarb, Kalki, and Sobhita, and the guy, what's his name, Arjun Mathur, and then they have their individual storylines, and each episode has a shadi that is going on. And each shadi has its own problems. Some of these shadis are so big that they cross over to 2 episodes or 3 episodes sometimes. And yeah, it's kind of interesting, but also kind of filmy in a way that all these events and all these problems are happening just to these characters. Like they are like the Holmes and Watson kind of because all the you can say that's the kind of circumstance they are in. But yeah, it's very interesting in a way.
Ruchi, you weren't too impressed with the first episode, no?
No, I mean, I think, again, like Amrita, I was expecting more of a Dharma feel to it. I didn't realize it would be this dark. And I think a lot of it has to do with me, because I left India about 13, 14 years ago. So the India I remember is very, very different from what it is now. And I acknowledge that. However, just to see that, I don't know, I might find it pretentious, but it's not. And that's how it has become now. So these really loud, ostentatious weddings, and, with the way people think, the way people are, I mean, I've not really seen that. So a lot of my judgments are quite personal. They might not necessarily be, what it is, I suppose. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I don't necessarily feel that it should be reflective of reality. I think they're obviously putting it to 11. They're exaggerating certain traits, I imagine.
No, but this is like when I've seen a lot of the weddings which people are having these days, it is what it is. So again, like just the wedding side of it, I mean, characters will always be grey, and that's fine. But again, I don't get what Shobita's deal is. Like, has she married him for his money? Has she not married him for his money? And I don't.
You got to watch the series to find that out.
I did like Jim Sarb a lot. He was much. Yeah, I did not expect that. I've seen him in such shady roles before, so I thought he was quite cute.
No, I love him, and I would also say like like. As a Delhi girl, the whole wedding thing, like that scene with Neena Gupta where where they're pitching the ideas for the wedding, and they're just like, who is your family? Oh, they're like royalty, you know? And I was like, I know who that auntie is. I know exactly what is happening. You know, like it was so to the point. Like at the moment, like, you know, like they had to agree to something shady to get the account, I was like, yeah, it has to be, because there's no way like your pitch about like birds in love is like gonna win over like your family are like Rajputs in Rajasthan. Like that's just not gonna happen.
Like, I'm a sales guy. That was a terrible pitch. Like, that was terrible. You do not get a deal that way. And it was funny watching it just before and during K3G, because they're basically marriage planners for the Raichans. You know, they're like, that's what they're kind of aiming for. And there's also then an Ambani wedding going on. So it's like, it is all very current on what's going on in a way.
Yeah. I mean, this is like, you know, the big part of Band Baja Barat, or their big turning point in their career was the Sainik Farms wedding, right? Mm-hmm. And this Made in Heaven starts off there. Like, they are already in that Sainik Farm zone, and they are already handling weddings of like 3 crore budgets, etc.
Yeah.
So it's got to do with that high class wedding and their problems and how these people are behind closed doors, their demands, and even though they are so progressive, and yet they have these politics, they have these orthodox values or superstitious ideas about marriages, and how these two people, modern Delhi people, are dealing with to keep their business afloat, and yet dealing with all the problems that come with it.
What I really liked is, like we spoke about this about when we were talking about Gully Boy, right? Like where Zoya is like an outsider looking in, but this is much more Dil Dhadakne Do. This is much more, like even Band Baja Barat, if you think about it, they were kind of up and comers and they were not part of that milieu. Whereas the wedding planners here very much are. It's their own world. They're part of this own world, even though if it's by marriage or whatever, they are part of that world. And that I found really interesting, because they have a very kind of, they understand what's at stake, you know?
But I'll not really go into the spoilers, but Zoya also explores not just the Sainik Farms territory or these really posh people, but through one character, she also explores the Rohini and the Dwarka side of Delhi as well, which is...
Is that jazz?
Yeah.
Oh, I did like jazz.
Yeah.
That scene where like she bumps into one of her old friends and she's just like, Jazz! You think you're in South Delhi, so you'll become Jazz.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow. Yeah, that was both funny and heartbreaking, which is like a sweet spot that Zoya often finds.
Yeah.
And I really like that about her.
One thing I would like to point out about this series is how good the production value is, and how many extras are in this movie, in this series. Like, I keep calling it a movie because the production value looks like that. You know, like across each episode, you will find like the mandaps and the huge events that are being held. There are like genuinely outdoor with hundreds of extras, and that's really a lot to handle for a web series, I suppose.
And again,
I had outfit envy when I saw Alia at her Sangeet. I have to say, it was fabulous.
Also kind of comparing Zoya to Kejo again, because we're going to be talking about K3G later on. It's a word that Kejo uses, but he feels tacky, whereas Zoya feels classy. You know what I mean? He must hate Zoya, like to a certain degree, because she's probably the kind of kid that, you know, teased him, because it looks effortlessly classy, the whole show, the way it's set up. And it's really, really cool to watch it. What I also really like is first of all, I really like the actress that is playing Tara. I'd never seen her before, and I feel like she just kind of blew me away. Just like, she looks so amazing. Like, you know, it's like, she's beautiful, like, first of all. I did not like Jim Sarb at all, because I feel he's so douchey. He's becoming like the hipster Shakti Kapoor. I've said this before. But he's he's 2 steps away from Ow Lolita, basically. And I do also like the whole the character of Karan. He's a gay character, and he's hiding it from his family. At least in the first few episodes, that aspect is quite. I would say bold for like a mainstream Indian content, right? Like I mean, I've not seen it too far. I've just seen the first two episodes, but I found it quite refreshing the way it's done. It's quite cool, laid back, but there's still this threat that, people might discover what's going on, or even his landlord might discover, and these issues that are probably, they still exist in a lot of countries. So I thought it had that good balance in a way.
It was, that scene where like the landlord's wife is freaking out because he always has so many guys over. And she says like, "Ghar mein jawan beti hai." Like, why aren't you afraid? And you just laugh because like, it's these tiny things that Zoya just excels in, like part of the fun.
I've only seen the first episode, but I got the feeling that Vinay Pathak was hitting on me because he's like,
that
I'll take you for a drive.
Right? I also think Vinay Pathak is in the closet, so I don't know.
Yeah. Maybe Joy can tell us after we're done recording. But I also had that feeling, by the way.
I also got the feeling that Kalki was having the affair with Jim Sarbh.
Oh.
Yeah,
You guys are all I don't know.
No. I know of it. I've seen second and third episodes, so yeah, you're right on the money there, I would say. But I'm gonna cut this off, man. Don't worry. I was not impressed with the Shashank Arora at all. I didn't like that character at all.
Was that the photographer?
Yeah.
Okay.
The guy with the camera, he's a major douche. Like not just as part of the show, but as a physical appearance entity. He's just, and he plays this he's shooting these wedding videos, but also I think on the side making a documentary on Indian weddings. So he, at the end of each episode, he would play like a narrator and kind of sum up what he takes out of the experience of the wedding of the week or wedding of the episode. And it just comes across that like he's some sort of a pretentious douchebag trying to summarize what the Indian wedding experience is for him. Yeah.
I also really liked episode 2 where Pulkit Samrat is doing what he's been trying to do, which is playing like a discount version of Salman Khan, and he does it really well. I think, I'm definitely going to be watching the rest of the season, and as soon as I do, we'll probably talk about it a little bit more when we can get into spoilers. Amrita, Ruchi, you guys interested in watching the whole thing, or are you done with the pilot and you feel that's enough, you've seen enough?
No, now I will. I'll watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
No, I'll watch it.
Yeah. Cool.
I sat through 4 more shots, please. So I think I can watch this.
Oh, I've not seen that one.
That I'm not gonna watch.
I tried watching that. Like I just couldn't get into it. That's Pritish Nandi, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it just feels like a really wannabe hipster version of Veere the Wedding, and they want to be more raunchy than there is more style than any substance.
Yeah, but again, my motivations for watching it might like different, isn't it? Because it's more girls, friends. My friends are all over the world, so and like I said, I sat through it. I'm not saying I loved it, but it was. And Sayani Gupta as well. I think she's really pretty, so she was quite nice. And this Kirti girl who was in the Uri film, she was lovely.
Yeah, it's really cool that these guys with streaming, these actors get to do a little bit more, because otherwise, Pulkit Samrat would only be making T-series movies. I would have never heard of Sobita, and it's cool that like a movie is hard, that you only have the Khans, or otherwise you need to go low indie, And here they can do like a big budget, high classy thing, and you just have actors that can do it, which is cool. If this was a movie, there were no way that they would cast these people to do it, So
Also, I bet like the economics are in the favor of like Indian content, because you can spend like a fraction of the money. Like if a similar series, if it was produced in the United States, would have cost probably like 10 times as much as like this one did with its production values.
Yeah.
So it's probably like good financial sense for Amazon as well, especially if they try to like cross promote this, like if it's not just content for the Indian market, and if they're trying to, not just plug into the diaspora, but also maybe promote this to other markets as well, which they totally could.
But Amazon does a shit job at doing that, other than the PR reaching out to podcasts like us, who are speaking to Indian audiences. It does a shit job at promoting their own content, and the user interface is shit. It doesn't really tell you what new content is available.
But I don't think Netflix does a good job with that either, to be honest. Like, I think Sacred Games could be a much bigger deal than they tried it. And like, why didn't they have the same strategy for Sacred Games as they did for Narcos, for example? Narcos crossed over to India, like my dad watches Narcos, or a part of Narcos. He doesn't understand, he's never read subtitles before, but he's watching Narcos. But that doesn't happen with Sacred Games. I've literally seen no Western Hollywood kind of podcast or a film nerd talk about Sacred Games, which is absurd because it's a pretty good show. And I don't know if this whole Indian wedding thing is going to cross over, but it should, because it's much better than a lot of the Amazon shows that I've even watched,
Priyanka has already done like all the promotion for it in the States. So also they just need to tie up into that.
Yeah. Okay.
Also, talking about like Amazon shows, like did you guys see like Akshay Kumar setting himself on fire for his new show on Amazon?
Yes. And I saw Twinkle's tweet about that.
Yeah, I saw the Twinkle's tweet. तू घर आ मैं तेरे को बताती हूँ.
I just found funny that he set himself on fire for a show that's only tentatively titled. It's tentatively titled The End. I'm not sure, but I'm gonna set myself on fire. Like, what is this?
पैसा मिलेगा तो मैं कुछ भी करूँगा.
मैं तेरे वास्ते नाची रे.
But interesting.
Okay.
I mean, it's cool for Akshay to get into streaming. I think we talked about would be probably Shah Rukh's lifesaver if you moved over to streaming, but Akshay's doing it first. I think
because Akshay is like one of those I think like after Akshay reached his rock bottom, he just realized like what a freeing experience that was, because he was just like, well, like how much worse can my life ever get? Like he's already experienced the lowest of the lows, and he's made it back after that, and he's done well.
What do you consider his lowest of the low, by the way?
Oh, during the 90s, don't you remember the 90s?
Khiladi, okay, Khiladi or whatever.
Yeah, like he had, I think,
Adam X.
He had like something like 17 flops in a row or something. And when I say flop, I mean like rock bottom scraping the barrel, because he had like signed about like, I don't know, like a crazy number of films, because back in the day that was the strategy, right? You just like sign whatever comes your way. And then he realized he had just taken money and like he couldn't return all the advances, and he had like contractual obligations to do these completely crappy films that were like destroying his star cred. So he just like gritted his teeth and just went through it. And then he came out the other side, and then he started making like really good films, and like he did like Hera Fairy, and like he started like looking at the directors and like what he was trying to make, and that's when he started climbing back. So I think Akshay's been one of those, is very rare actually in Bollywood, in that like he's willing to like think outside the box and like do different things. So unlike the Khans, like he's not locked into anything.
Right. No. I was thinking maybe you were thinking of something like Warriors, where he worked with big studios, and that also bombed. He's tried to have these big studio ones. Like even Blue was supposed to be huge, and it bombed. Then he tried to do 8x10 Tasveer, that also bombed. Like going after the artsy crowd. So like I was just trying to figure out which was the low of the low. But he's taken chances a lot of times, and it's never paid out for him. So I hope this works out. I'm quite curious to see what it is. I know that Rohit Shetty is also trying to get into streaming. So could be good to have these big guns supported, because the content is there and the quality is kind of being raised, but then it needs the numbers. Otherwise it won't sustain. And I don't think Sacred Games alone can do it, Again, it's that Lutera thing. Like there's a certain audience that watches this, but it's not reaching numbers yet. So yeah, and I don't know, maybe Made in Heaven is going to be the same thing. I don't know. I don't think we're there yet. I've not seen it all, but I think it needs like full massy commercial people to get on board to get really streaming going, because it's such a huge market, India,
And India, like data is so cheap that a lot of the stuff they're doing doesn't even reach us necessarily. So I don't know if you guys know about Filter Copy and stuff. They are doing some really cute shows.
I don't even know what Filter
short.
Copy is. What is that? Sorry, is that a streaming service?
No, I think it's
No.
like a production house, I think.
There's like
and-
a bunch of like online like production houses that only produce digital content.
It's like TVF
So,
yes.
yeah, like TVF or
or
Filter
Alt
Copy,
Balaji.
or Alt Balaji is a little different because it's backed by Ekta Mata. But there's like things like I think the ones that really started it were like TVF and the other one, the All India Bakchod.
Mhm.
So those were the
Now
two ones
defunct.
that like really started. Yeah, now defunct. So AIB and TVF were the first ones, and then like after that, Filter Coffee, and there's a bunch of them now actually.
Yeah,
Interesting.
and their stuff is very creative and very cute. So, I mean, it's about time that the big guns joined that bandwagon, I suppose.
Funnily, I was watching Zakir Hussein's stand-up news. Zakir stand-up on
Khan.
Prime. Zakir Khan? Yeah, sorry. Right. I was like, Zakir Hussain ke table kaam nahi kar rahe. He's starting comedy.
It's like Zakir Hussain does stand up.
Yeah, he's got good comic timing.
अरे हुजूर वाह ताज बोलिए बड़म टिश.
But it was funny. Oh, by the way, I only lasted 20 minutes of Zakir Khan. I switched it off, but it was funny because when a comedian comes up, there's like a little voice that announces it, the announcer, and it was Tanmay Bhatt. So it was just like felt like what's really going on. They're not in front of the curtain, but they're still behind the curtain doing the announcement. So now, when you guys said AIB disbanded, I actually didn't even know that they were actually officially disbanded. Yeah. By the way, it's not really good, the stand up. But they have a lot of stand up on there.
I actually went for his show, and we walked out like in probably an hour and a half.
Mid show, you walked out.
When Zakir Khan, he was touring, so
Wow.
bought tickets. I went, and nope, didn't like it.
Yeah,
I like
we
his
didn't like
short stuff, but no.
Yeah, the first one was okay. I mean, there was a few themes that he picks on that I get like they just like I get like very like, what the fuck are you talking about, dude? But I guess it appeals to the audience. But this one was like just about college and like friend, and I was like, yeah, this is just not me. It's not.
I think the only Indian comic that I currently like is Biswa Kalyanarath, but he's not done any new content.
He's not
in a
done
long time.
much, huh? It's annoying. Like at least start those pretentious reviews again, man. Like it's yeah, those
I
are good.
really like his content because it's more global and more nerdy than
Yeah.
others.
Yeah, although I wonder if it's global because it's very much like Hindi based. Like, he doesn't even do that much in English, I feel.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's probably my favorite too. Amrita, do you even watch these stand-ups or do you like
To
try?
be honest, like most of them, I like when they first started, I tried, and then a lot of it was just like classist bullshit. So I was just like, no thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because even that thing, the Comic Stan, that one didn't work for me either.
No.
Did anybody watch that?
Yeah, I tried.
Yeah.
I tried as well.
Yeah. Okay, cool. Shall we get to the main event, or did we have anything else we wanted to talk about?
Nope.
I think we need to sing.
Asim is still stuck in Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
Isn't that? Oh yeah, it's the other one, right? Which do it. I'm gonna sing. Like, what is it?
Kabhi khushi, kabhi gham.
Yeah, that one.
Oh.
Yeah, sorry for those ke like kaan ke parde phat gaye, but if your eardrums exploded.
So I think there is a reason why Dharma chose the Kuch Kuch Hota Hai theme for their Dharma title, the Dharma Productions, whatever music, rather than Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham.
Yeah, I want to get into that a little bit. Should we do, like last time, go through it with the Curious Cat questions, or there's less questions, right, Amrita?
Yeah, just fewer questions.
Like we can do the movie and then jump into one of the questions and come back and.
Okay, why is the
Why is this movie?
why is this type of a movie hyped so much? And do you think Kejo has ever been to Chandni Chowk? Has your impression about the film changed with time? And K3G or Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, the better movie? How do you guys think Kejo's directing style changed? Like, do you see any growth? And 3 things you'll always remember this film by. And then
Let's start with that. I think that's a good way. Like, let's start with that, and also with how people felt when they watched the movie first time. You know, I liked the one that Manish wrote down.
yeah.
That was good. I think that's a good kind of way to, start, like set the base, and then we can take it from there, no?
Baby ka base pasand hai.
Okay, so K3G. So yeah, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. Funny enough, I was going through just checking out our other friend podcasters and other content, and there doesn't seem to be that much about Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham, which is kind of weird because it's such a huge movie, but it is definitely not. It's not Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, right? For Dharma, even for Karan Johar, this seems to be like the bigger success, the bigger cast, the biggest scale. It was the most expensive movie up until that time. It really pushed the envelope on, having an international distribution for this movie. I think Amitabh had just won Millennial Star of the Century or something like that. So there was kind of a lot of noise going around for this. And yeah, I don't know. Do you have thoughts about when it came out and you first watched it, Ruchi, maybe?
So I like everything else, I relate everything personally to my life. But obviously, like living in India, the milestones were, school time was DDLJ and Hum Aapke Hain Kaun, and then college was Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham. So it was big. It had 3 generations of really popular couples. The whole country was so excited about it. One of the most glamorous films ever. But having said that, it was glamour with traditional values, which kind of worked in every city. So, all the B towns and everywhere. This was the movie that they wanted to watch. They wanted to be like, and it appealed to everyone. So, the mother appeals to the mothers, and Kareena and her outfits appealed to my cousins, whereas I was a bit like, oh, I probably might not wear that, but extreme crop tops. But, so I think that kind of Karan Johar played on that, and they were still experimenting with how far they could kind of, push the boundaries. So they've played it safe with All About Loving Your Parents, but then there's a lot of other stuff in there, which I think we can talk about later. But a few bits I really, really liked. I mean, just the main thing is Amitabh was so old-fashioned, but he still adopted this child, which most people might not do. So where did that come from?
I think like in Hollywood, they talk about 4-quadrant movies. Like this is the closest thing you can get in Bollywood, like the 4-quadrant movie, you know, it really appeals to all cross sections of the audience. Amrita, do you remember watching K3G for the first time?
I remember it coming out my first year in the States. I think I didn't get to see it until... Oh, I do remember, actually. I came back for the summer, like a year after the movie came out. And my my best friend made me, like, sit there and watch it. And we literally spent this entire afternoon, like, watching it. And at the end of it, she was like, "Did you like it?" And I was like, I mean, it's a little long. And then she was like, "I hated it." And I was like, "Then why did you make me watch it?" Because we literally sat here forever. And she was like, "I don't know. I wanted you to see it because everybody's seen it." And I was like, "Thanks. You're a real best friend." So I remember that. No, but a lot of things, like on this rewatch, that I just remembered, like Ruchi, the fashion is what I'd forgotten about it. Because when we say this movie is really big in pop culture, it's because there's certain things, as Ruchi was saying before, there's like certain bits that everybody loves or everybody talks about. And then there's the majority of the movie that like nobody watches or like fast forwards through because it's 3.5
So long.
hours.
So long.
There's like bits that have become really famous because like the BuzzFeed people really keep talking about it all the time, for instance. And Pooh has become like an icon. So there's like things like that like keep coming back, you know. So I think that's what people really focus on when they say that K3G is their favorite movie or stuff. But I remember this time around, like I was just looking at the fashion. I remember that light brown lipstick and the light purple lipstick that Pooh is wearing. I remember what a big deal that was. And I was just like, oh my God, it's so tragic. Just all the latex, crop tops and the tragedy pants that the palazzos that everyone's wearing. And I just remember all those fashion choices. And I was just like, oh my God. I am so glad that is over.
I owned a pair of trousers with side slits, which I had forgotten I had erased from my memory.
Same.
All the traumas were coming back. So, Joy, man, do you have thoughts? Do you remember watching K3G for the first time?
So, K3G came out the same year as Lagan and Dil Chahta Hai and everything. And even Karan Johar acknowledges how regressive this movie is in his filmography when he compares himself to those movies that came out in the same year. And 2001 was my very first year of undergrad, and I didn't get to watch this at the cinema. But I remember the pirated CD doing the rounds at my university hostel, and I got to watch this multiple number of times in splits. And it, like I could remember, like my roommate at my university hall, he would say, "Naam rakha hai kabhi khushi kabhi gum, lekin gum hi gum dikhaya hai." Everybody's crying throughout the movie, right? So that's my like indelible memory of this movie and the songs. We'll get to that, but I think it is sort of a time capsule, right? 2001. This movie is kind of indelible in that time frame of Bollywood pop culture, and still looms large, even though we try to erase it from our memories because of the things that it does. It's kind of like Karan Johar going the Rajashri way and trying to project that family values, and it's all about loving their parents, your parents, etc. But I think my memory of watching it for the first time wasn't really about all of that. It's just very. I just find myself very naive, and I remember how naive I was back then when I watched Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gum.
It's also interesting because, okay, it's a grand movie and stuff like that, but it's also the fact that we're having these three generation of stars together, right? You have classic Bollywood with, Amitabh and Jaya. Then you have Shah Rukh and Kajol, which is the thing we kind of grew up. And then, where are you going next? And at that time, we thought it was going to be Hrithik Roshan, which clearly we were all wrong in that. That was not going to happen. And it's not happened. But, having that three generation kind of thing is kind of a huge thing. And I don't think we've been able to do that again in a way, right?
Yeah.
So that's
it's also funny how I did not see any of the problems that I have right now with this movie. Like, it was fairly standard Bollywood fare if you were to watch it in 2001 versus now, where you can see, oh, this has not aged well.
And apparently my wife also reminded me that this is the first Bollywood movie we watched together. And what she appreciated is that I found the picture I put on a movie. She actually said, I was so happy that he didn't put on a Salman Khan movie because we might have not gotten married. So I appreciated the fact that he found something that I would like. And then he was also crying, which showed me that this guy can also be sensitive. So, and I'll be honest, I cried again last night.
I thought like this movie would be like, because the overall tone of this movie is like everybody's guilty and this father figure is a dick, and then but by the end of it, it got me. It really got me. Like that whole scene of Amitabh, asking for forgiveness to Rahul. That just really got me.
Yeah, I want to get into this is Amitabh a dick thing a bit later on, but I was reading this. The other thing that also, segueing from my wife who's not Pakistani or Indian, she's French. This was also one of those movies that a lot of non-Bollywood people introduced Bollywood to, right?
Yeah.
And this, I was reading this from who wrote this? Wait, I think somebody on Curious Cat also said, no? This is the first movie they watched?
Yeah. I think somebody what's his name? Karan Johar was doing the festival circuit, or he was promoting one of his other Dharma movies, and then he probably got approached by a film journalist saying how much Kabhi Khushi Kabhi Gham is popular in Germany because it got like a television distribution in Germany and it used to play on their national network for a very, very long time. So this was also like one of the big movies that introduced not only Shah Rukh Khan but also Dharma movies to Germany.
Yeah, so here is the one, I think it is from Alyssa, Bollywood Newbie. She says, this is one of those movies that seems so exciting when you are a newcomer to Hindi films, and then you realize down the road it is the film equivalent of mall chain restaurant food. Not terrible, but bland and suffers from comparison with the real food.
That's pretty accurate.
And then I really liked Manish's comment. He said, I really love this movie, and I promise it's not just nostalgia. Last few times I've started to think about the film's themes of classicism and after effects of colonialism. Raichand's embarrassment of Anjali comes from how unapologetically desi she is compared to his Western snobbery. And then in England, Pooja adopts this very ridiculous persona to rise up to the social ladder. Raichand even asks Rohit why he's staying with an Indian family and not a hotel. Anjali remains herself though she directly faces racism from her white acquaintances. That's why the school concert scene is so important, because it's an acknowledgement that they do not have to bend to English expectations and it's okay to be themselves. I don't think the movie quite reckons with Raichand's classicism, but presumably he no longer sees Anjali as inferior. I thought that was a really cool kind of comment about K3G, and slightly more positive than I think people want to give credit to. And I think also it's the same kind of thing that we spoke about with the Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, is that I think Karan downplays what he does, and I really do think he's talented. But he has that way of, I'll make fun of it before you make fun of it, and
Yeah.
that's typically something of people that have been bullied in their life. They tend to do have a defense mechanism to do that.
Yeah, I think that kind of is reflective of how Karan Johar talks about this while growing up in South Bombay and stuff, when people thought being Bollywood and being associated with Bollywood what was not cool, and he would very secretly hide his love for Bollywood. It kind of is that the Raichand, although they have lavish Punjabi puja routines and all of this, but they would look down upon Chandni Chowk and all of that.
Right. So let's get into, I think one of the questions that somebody also pushed, and I'm going to ask you guys this, Kuch Kuch Hota Hai or K3G? Which is your favorite, Ruchi?
I think K3G, and I'll say it's my favorite in the trilogy, which is Kuch Kuch Hota Hai, Kabhi Alvida Na Kehna, and K3G.
Oh, yeah.
I think it is, for repeat value purposes, for a lot of the stuff, this movie is far better.
Sujoy?
It's an easy Kuch Kuch Hota Hai for me. I could watch Kuch Kuch Hota Hai way many more times than having to sit through Kabhi Khushi Kabhie Gham.
Amrita?
I think if I have to sit through the whole movie, I'd rather see Kuch Kuch Hota Hai.
Yeah.
But I will say that K3G is the movie from which I see random scenes more often than I see Kuch Kuch Hota Hai. I don't really search for random scenes that much from Kuch Kuch, but I do search for random scenes from K3G.
What is happening with you, Amrita? Why are you searching for random scenes of K3G?
But there's so many iconic ones.
Yeah.
Somebody on Twitter will say something, and then I'm just oh, there's that scene. I should watch it again.
Also, there's a lot of dialogues from this which are part of my daily vocabulary. It's, literally, you don't even realize it. So that
तुम्हें क्या लगता है, रुचि?
So Joy is K3G shaming us, Ruchi.
It's fine. My favorite is Kajol when she goes, "हाँ, उसका बेटा मर गया."
For me, it's when Kajol says, "Ah, poo bani Parvati."
Yeah, I think Kajol's. And I don't know if I should use the word reduced, but she plays a comedy auntie in this movie.
She is unbearable. If you the tiny bits that I used to search for on YouTube, she was fine. But in the context of the movie, her shrillness is at a 12. She just drilled through my ears. That, that scene where Shah Rukh wakes up in the morning by stuffing cotton in his ears. I felt that in my bones. I was yes, that is the only way that I could survive it too.
Oh, I love Kajol in this. I loved her. I thought she was great.
No.
I think she's a lot cuter in London, but in Chandni Chowk, she's not Chandni Chowk, but she is. And
she's all of Chandni Chowk.
Yeah, but the thing is, what is Chandni Chowk? Who are you to decide what is Chandni Chowk?
Oh, that is somebody on Curious Cat was do you think Kejo has ever been to Chandni Chowk?
I've never been to Chandni Chowk, so how does it feel in compared to what Chandni Chowk is real life, what they portray in this movie?
It's a lot more claustrophobic than what they showed in the movie. In the movie, it's there's one nice, open area. And everybody
there's a square in Chandni Chowk. I don't think so.
Where they have a mela, there's space to have a mela.
There's a Bhangra party and Kajol is dancing? No.
No, my thing was, how do they run from Chandni Chowk with 2 giant trays of mithai for a whole party somewhere in GK or some farm somewhere? It's just not possible.
Chandni Chowk is literally you've been to Lahore, right? I know you're from Karachi.
No, I've not been to Lahore. No, I've not been to Lahore.
Then I really can't explain what.
Was Bajrangi Bhaijaan also set in Chandni Chowk? The chicken song and stuff like that?
I
Tujo Mila.
think so.
Okay.
So there are some scenes of Chandni Chowk or similar old Delhi neighborhoods in Made in Heaven, if you would like to.
It's like Sadar. It's Karachi ka Sadar. It's basically that, right? I get it.
Okay, I don't know that area. But like it's these narrow lanes that are like, because it's basically the like the Mughal part of Delhi. So it's these narrow like 16th century lanes that have not changed. They're called by the same names. Some of the shops are shops that were granted permission to set up shop by like the emperor back then.
Oh, wow.
And it's these narrow lanes where basically if you walked with both your arms outstretched, you would like touch the walls. And there's like wires, like electrical wires hanging all over your head. And in the middle of all this, there's like all these people walking and like people living. And then there's like these
rickshaws and
rickshawalas,
thelas and cows and
exactly everything in between. So it's very, very claustrophobic and very, very dusty, basically. That's what it's like.
But there's also, like, I think in the terms of question that the Curious Cat asked, and then also when the lady is coming to see Rukhsar, she also says, like, oh, we're from Lucknow, but this is Chandni Chowk. And she kind of, like, talks to it about, like, in a snobby way, I felt. So it's like a down market area. Is that what it's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's basically, so when Kajol is like talking about like how wo meri dukaan hadapna chahta hai, like that is actually a very valid fear if you have a shop in Chandni Chowk, because a lot of those places, you know, they're rent control and shit. And if you have, it's two things at once. It's both that if you have a shop, like a sari shop or like a jewelry shop or something in Chandni Chowk, then that is an address. It says something to like old Delhi people. Like if you're from Delhi, then like if you want to buy something for your wedding, for example, like what Sujoy was saying, Made in Heaven. Like, if you want to buy something for your wedding and stuff, you go to Chandni Chowk. Like, the old families will all go to Chandni Chowk.
Right.
But also, it's the people that run these shops and stuff that live in that area. And so it's also like, it's like, it's not like educated people. It's not, because there's Hindus and Muslims that live in that area, but it's also like seen as like a slightly like, not slightly, it's like pretty down market. Like if you're up market in Delhi, then you live in South Delhi. You don't live in any of the other places.
Right.
But just on a very random note, do you think they sold the mithai shop and that's how they could afford to live in Hampstead in London?
That part where like he says that their neighbors are complaining because Kajol is singing, I'm like, how would they hear? Because your house is like giant. Like, how would anybody hear anything?
But I want to get back to that because I was watching the movie and then I also watched the deleted scenes. They're available on YouTube. And there's actually a scene where they explain how Shah Rukh gets rich. That he actually works and they kind of build this life together. And they cut it off actually. So, you see Shah Rukh, doing interviews, doing sale pitches. And there's this really sweet scene where he's like working late and Kajol is kind of bringing him tea and giving him a hug and a kiss. And it just seemed like, they do genuinely love each other. And I think that's really well portrayed in this movie. So, but they cut that off actually. It's when Pooh and Hrithik meet for the first time. He does that Chandni ki whatever thing rhyme he does, and then there was a scene where they kind of are walking towards each other, and you see the flashback of the life that Pooh and Kajol and Shah Rukh have had, and they cut that off actually.
Okay.
So yeah, there is a reason, and plus also Karan Johar thinks getting rich is quite easy, because that's how he's lived his life, So
there is some sort of a indication though that Rohan says, right? Bhaiya bhi MBA karne ke liye London gaye the. So Shah Rukh is an MBA, so I would guess he would have a comfortable life.
Yeah, plus it's Shah Rukh, man. So